doing it again? There we are. Hello. You're wondering if it was going to stall out again and everything. So, hey, welcome everybody to another episode of Maple Syrup. It is T-2 episodes until Kat's last episode with us. She is moving Europe side for foreseeable future, and that will put her way out of the time frame of what's reasonable for being on the show, at least at this point in time. So today we're just doing kind of an AMA, which is an Ask Me Anything. And hopefully when people start getting here, we'll have some questions and then we can give some answers from our own perspectives. But we do have stuff to talk about no matter what. If nobody's here to watch live, there'll be plenty of things to listen to on the repeat, on the rewind, on the YouTubes and all those things. So welcome to everybody who is joining us. And if you have questions, just chat them up, put them in the chat, and we'll get to them as we go along. So, Kat and George, what's up with you guys so far this week since I've last seen you?
Planning to pack?
Yeah. You have to plan to pack.
I mean, yeah, you kind of do.
I get it, yeah.
If you just start putting things in boxes, then you end up not being able to get to the other things because the boxes you filled are in the way.
Or things are in the wrong box. You're like, I wish I put that in this box. You have to unbox the boxes, and then you rebox
and what
the boxes.
Size box to get. This is the first time I've ever been told by a moving company it's cheaper to go and buy your boxes at X other place.
Really?
Yeah, they just said just go and get them from this place. Ours are much more expensive, and theirs are the same, and it's fine. Just go get them. And I was like,
if we want to, for what we want to box for ourselves. I was amazed that they let us use someone else's boxes. So we're not going to
out of the insurance requirements in every previous move I've done that the boxes were their boxes. But sure, okay.
I've done a couple moves, not of houses, but of like offices, like major office moves, where we had like these pods that we had to fill up. That was pretty fun, actually. You had to like strategically fill up your pod, and like the pod gets carted over and then gets like ejected into your new office space, and it's kind of funny. But it's a whole logistical nightmare. I'm looking around my office because I told you that I was going to clean my office, and it's a similar logistical nightmare. It's like, where do I start, and where is there free space to shuffle the stuff that I want to keep in the room, but need to clean around or under or over or whatever. So I need like layers. Maybe I'll build a shelf outside in the kitchen just to put stuff on until this space is clean. But there's so much stuff, and I'm such a hoarder. I'm not. Well, my mom is a hoarder, but I'm not like clinically a hoarder. But there's a lot of stuff in this room that's like, but I might need it someday. I should probably start like putting things in like boxes that are dated, and if I don't use it within like the year or 2 years or something, maybe 3, then I'll check that.
You won't. But I mean, there's a lot in favor of that kind of frugal mindset of having, keeping the bits of string and the rubber bands and all of those sorts of things that we were taught to do when we were younger. And now people are just like, oh, I buy new rubber bands every time. And I'm like,
what?
Oh, no, there's a problem.
I mean, part of it is definitely, so I'm from an immigrant family and I'm Gen X, and there was a Cold War. And so it's always been a thing for me to like save and scrimp and like keep all of the butter dishes and, all of the bags in a bag under the sink type thing. It's kind of how you know you're an immigrant. And I am the same way with game supplies, right? I have like anytime like a game, like I'm looking at this right now, oh my God. So this is from Skyrise. And of course, because I'm that guy, I just kind of go all in when I like something. And so it comes with all the wooden bits or the plastic bits or whatever. So am I going to get rid of these? No, I'm not. These are precious to me. I can use them for something else. Maybe. I don't know. And they sit over here on my turntables because I just haven't had the time to mix lately. So yeah, I keep all those sorts of things for the possible rainy day when they might be useful to me. That's actually a neat topic, like organization. How do you guys organize your design space? Is it organized at all? What do you do?
Don't
George.
Don't look.
Don't hide George.
do I organize it? I have boxes for everything, lots of tiny boxes, not necessarily the right boxes, but
Right.
the boxes.
Do you save
Um,
boxes? I save a lot. I save
oh,
all
so
sorts of
many
boxes.
boxes. Every time I've saved bubble wrap, it's been worth it. So
It's
boxes and
true.
bubble wrap, yes. Bubble wrap is wicked expensive, and every time you think you're not going to move, you're going to move. So, which has nothing to do with game design. But
Well, I
I
mean,
think
so for me,
I
it's
think
it's
small
it.
boxes with good closures, especially like
Yes.
either clamshell or ones that hinge up, not like just a
Yeah.
random cardboard box, but
No, I mean, like, I'm just looking around this room, and there's a ton of like boxes from like small electronic things because I,
mm,
buy a lot of small electronic things,
mm,
and they stay forever because they're useful for prototypes and things like that.
mm.
So I just keep all of those things. I don't know if you can see these here. If my camera will follow me. Come on, camera, do your job.
That's a good job.
Okay, so over there is like
Mm,
all published stuff, but in the corner is like a big mess of tools,
mm,
and that's where the boxes go. And then over here, in this corner down here, if you can see down here, you might not be able to. The camera is trying to follow me, but there's like shelves of drawers underneath a
okay.
big table, like a 6 foot banquet
Mm,
table, and my record player sit on top of there. But underneath is like four banks of shelves, and that's where all like the prototyping bits stay. And I have some bits that I've owned for decades, that I
mm.
bought like when I was at a store. When you see, when you're at a store and you see four things of the same shape but different color, you're
I've
like,
heard about that.
I must own those things because someday they'll be useful in a game.
Mm,
That's what resides over here in
mm,
this kind of storage bin of antiquities. And the funny thing is that I've how people say there's an app for that. I always say there's a bit for that, and it's in this bin right here. And I have on many occasions had the perfect bit for what I was looking for at the
mm,
time, which is helpful, I guess, right? So when we're talking about organization, I don't think I am organized. I would like to be a little bit more organized. And I think cleaning this week will be my first step towards reorganizing this space that was very organized at one point and then COVID hit and it hasn't really been the same since for like the last 5 years, probably.
I find when I reorganize, I find a place for everything, and I try to dedicate myself to only putting those things there.
And then
And
what happens?
inevitably, you have a day when you're rushed, or you have to go somewhere, or you're sleep deprived. And you put something else on that shelf or in that box, and it is impossible to remove that unless you start entirely over. So
Well, I
that
mean,
stays in that box. No,
you've
no, it's
tainted the
physically
pool.
yeah, it's
Well, I mean,
it's there
because
now. So
you've opened an and gate. It
yes,
is now X and Y can
it's a
go in
good way to
that
look at it.
box,
Yes,
and the
and but
logic can't change
yes, but entropy takes over and the order, and then you have to start over
for sure.
and reorganize, and it's going to stay that way this time. And um,
Oh, so you're looking at a lot of little like
Cat loves
containers
these
with
clicky
snap
clacky
lids.
boxes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like consistency. I don't feel organized unless things are consistent. So all of my craft materials are in these same boxes and they come in several different thicknesses and they all sit within each other and so they'll like stack
Stack.
nicely.
Yeah.
It's very satisfying. And so once I was thinking about what I was going to do with game design, I was like, okay, what boxes of like consistent size boxes can I get? So these, which are for photos,
Yep. I use
officially,
them
I've never
too.
seen anyone. Why would you have your photos in a pile like that? They'll just meld together into a block. But anyway, that's what these are for.
Yeah.
So I use these, which slot into these bigger, like suitcase
Carrying
type
cases.
things,
Yeah.
officially, which I never use. And then I have slightly larger ones. These particular ones are bits for BubbleNet, but
Yep.
and then I have
Yeah. I have ones that are actually same like material, but like 12 inches by 12 inches, and they're actually really
hmm,
useful because
they
they're basically the size of a Ticket to Ride box, right?
they
So
come in all different
you can
shapes.
give a
These
really
ones,
good
and
estimate of what you can fit in that box. Yeah,
they're-
Ernie is saying, I love having just the right thing on hand, that thing that I've had for decades. Yeah, it feels good, right? It justifies your magpie genes that you've collected this thing, and it's like I knew this would come in handy at some point.
I also end up this wasn't something that happened while I was in New Zealand, but here in the US, your meds are all in the same container. We
Oh,
would get them in all different sizes and shapes and transparencies and all kinds of things.
but roughly similar
They're all
sized.
different. All no, they're all different. But here
Oh,
in the
sorry.
US, you get all the same orange plastic thing with a little white lid, twisty thing. Like they're all the same.
Oh,
And
yeah, we have
so
different sizes and shapes too.
yeah, I
But
have. I
they're the
mean,
same. They're the same concept, but multiple different things. But you're finding that where you are, you get them
in,
all in the same
no,
size and shape.
in New Zealand, there'd be like some where they're like this big for the same
Yeah, yeah,
amount
yeah,
of
yeah, yeah,
pills
yeah.
that would get one this big, and they're all different. Whereas here, they're all very, very consistent. But unfortunately, they don't like sitting next to each other. But I was trying to figure out what to do with them because I have hundreds of them already. Not
Yeah.
quite hundreds, but many. And then I was like, okay, well, I guess I can segregate all of my components so that I can go, do I have any meeples? I do. But obviously, these containers are a bit small for my meeple collection now. They are good for the other little bits at exactly random, but
That's why
they're much
I
smaller.
eat a
So,
lot of nuts. These
ah,
these are for cashew nuts, and I eat a lot of cashew nuts because I'm fancy like
that's a
that.
flex.
Uh,
I can afford to eat this many cashew nuts. Damn,
there are like
I'd love to be
I
able
don't
to do
know
that.
50 of those over there,
Oh my
but
god.
that's collected over lives, over years and
Oh,
years and
I
years.
know. I just I remember when I was a kid, my dad loved cashew nuts, and we weren't allowed to eat them because they were so expensive. They were his
Yeah,
special treat.
yeah.
It's
My
become
my parents
cheaper
think that way
now,
too about cashew nuts. Like they're a special
but
event thing,
yeah, it used to be like no. They only came out for special parties, and we were allowed to hand them around to the adults, but we weren't
but not
allowed
eat
any.
them yourself.
And so one of the things that I did when I left home was I bought a bag of cashew nuts and I ate them.
Yes,
And
out
it
of
was,
spite.
it was a little bag like this. And I was like, these aren't even that expensive. What's going on? But yeah. So
David says
Dave's
that.
saying multiple cubes on his shelf that are full of various bits of different. Yep,
Yeah, I mean, if I had more
that's fair.
wherewithal and maybe a special space, I would actually like to have like pegboard with like bits like a tool shop.
Hmm.
I do have a drill press and all these things over there, so that's fun. Um, so we've got a bunch of people on watching, which is great. Today, everybody is an AMA, so we just started talking because there was only like one or two people here, but now there's more. If you have any questions for George, Kat, or myself, or all of us, or any of us, any combination or permutation thereof, shout them out, put them into chat, and we will get to them over time. Um, what is your favorite prototyping tool, Kat? What is the thing that you
Cricket.
maybe use the most or you like the most? Oh, the cricket. Yeah. I
The
am
cricket,
not. I don't have
I would
one,
say.
but I hear good things about them. Oh, there it is, right
They're
there. And
particularly good when George comes with them,
oh, because he can like
because
troubleshoot
George
it.
does. Well, he does the majority of the work for it. I know how to do it, but because it's a repetitive task, I just basically don't. Like I will blip out, and I've got like a quarter of the way through, and 3 hours later, I'm like, oh yeah, I was supposed to do the rest of that. Whereas
So
George can just sit down and plow through.
what's the repetitiveness of it? Like
George,
just
over to
loading the
you.
paper and stuff.
Oh no, no. Well, it's the. I mean, yes, there is that, but it's more the preparation, the
Okay.
files. Depending on how many cards. So I suppose it's all repetitive because it's all a chain. But so if you're doing what we do, which is the print and cut, where you basically you take your layout of, let's say, cards
Yeah.
for sake, but it could be anything. You input you use whatever digital software you are and export it as an image. You can do it as a vector, but it's a different process. Chuck it in. It basically finds the transparency, so it knows, oh well, these are the areas that you would like me to cut out.
Right.
Loads it into the software, and then because we don't have a decent enough printer to print this stuff at home, especially because I use Ledger a lot, which is the 11 by 17,
Okay.
which I think is like A3-ish,
For
roughly.
It's the closest the US has to A3
Yeah, I'm not saying it's A3,
for
but it's bigger than
get an
A4.
like not
Yes.
legal. Is it legal or not legal?
No, no, it's next step up from legal. So legal
It's not even
is
double legal. It doesn't.
11.
11.
It's
Legal
a
is so
weird size.
yeah. So
Okay.
if letter is 8.5 by 11, legal is 11 by 14,
Yeah.
and ledger is 11 by 17. I think. No,
Oh,
eight and
so
a half.
it's two
Sorry, 8.5
pages.
by 14 is legal, and then 11 by 17. So it's as close as you get to two letter sheets.
Yeah, it's two
It
letter
actually just
sheets.
is two letter sheets, isn't it?
Yeah. 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 It
Anyway,
is.
yeah, we can't print that at home, but it's space efficient for reasons I can explain. But basically, you tell the Cricut software, dump
And
me
the
out a
Cricut can
file.
handle that size of page. That's cool.
Yeah, a little longer and a little wider than that actually. But basically, you tell it, dump me out a PDF of my image that you can use to cut, which basically gives it some like register marks that it
Yeah.
uses when it finds where it is. We go print them, and then you stick them on sheets, run them through, like say, here's the thing you had me print out. I would like to actually cut it now, and go through. I want these setting. I'm going to use it's this size, it's this type of material, it's these settings, and then you load them through. Make sure that you actually align them in the corner and that you haven't flipped them upside down. Like it's not hard, but it's a checklist.
Yeah.
And if you do it wrong, you get your meeples cut
You
out of your
wasted
cards.
your yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
which can kind of suck.
but yeah, I mean, it'll cut up to like 1.5 mil of a material. So we use
That's not too
what we
bad.
use what we use for like if we're doing tokens. What?
Two.
2 mil.
Um,
Two.
I don't think so. It struggles once we get to 1.6 because I've tried to glue up thicker material to what we use for our tokens. You can use chipboard, but that's expensive and difficult to glue things to. Potentially, we use if you've ever like, if you have comic books, those like
Yeah.
archival boards you put
Yeah.
behind them.
Yeah. Comic book backing boards.
Yeah, but they make them at magazine size called magazine board, and
Right.
we use that as the core basically and glue the front and backs to those.
Yeah.
And that gives us like a 1.2 or 1.3 mil token, which isn't quite as good as what you're going to get out of the factory, but it's serviceable enough, and they're easy to work with.
I was
But
watching this, I think, on YouTube, and the auto captioning keeps calling meatballs meatballs,
I don't.
which
It's
is also
not good for
it's a
cutting
real fun game.
meatballs. Don't do that. It's a mess. Yeah, do not cut meat with this device.
Officially,
No.
it can cut up to 2.4 mil deep, George.
Well,
I looked it up.
that would be
With the
impressive.
special blade.
Oh, okay. We've
With
only
the knife.
Yeah,
one
there's
we
definitely
use.
a heavy blade. Yeah.
Yeah, we use the heavy blade. It just the problem is that instead of it just being like chomp and it cuts further, it just traces the same line over and over. So the deeper it goes, the more times it needs to trace, which means
Right.
that it starts getting messy and so forth, and it starts to struggle and the
Yeah.
knife blunts and all that kind of stuff. So
Hmm.
would I do it? Nah. I agree with George that 1.5 is around about where it's happiest, but officially it can
Okay.
cut another almost whole mil deeper.
One whole mill.
Yeah, I'd love to
Which
see it
is,
try. Um,
in a feeling thing, it's like that's a big deal. But yeah.
Maybe it's with different materials. I don't know, but it doesn't love it on this magazine board, which is basically like grey board.
Yeah. Yeah. I use those comic backing boards all the time just because it's
Yeah,
consistent.
Hmm.
Right? It's just
yeah.
like
We
I
just
can
buy
buy it
them.
all the time everywhere, and it's cheap and it is consistent and it does the job. David, one of the guys that I do design with, he'll just take um, like a Shreddies box or a Wheaties box or whatever and just glue them all together and make like his own
I've seen
laminate
people do
board.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, which is great and cheap, and
Hey, yeah, if
you're
you've got it.
repurposing stuff. That's great. Yeah.
Hmm.
Um.
Use whatever you have. Like
Yeah.
absolutely, there is no need. But I have to say that back when I was printing and cutting all of the cards manually and using my corner rounder, which I loved, I also ended up getting these awful bruises here from using the corner
Oh, really?
rounder. But if you've got like 100 cards, it's
Yeah.
going to take the whole day, and you're just going to end up with really bad bruising. I already have minor hand issues anyway, so I was just like, and then just having a cricket sitting there and going yum yum yum, yes, it's
Yeah.
amazing. It's expensive though as well, bear in mind, because you have to replace those blades and you have to replace the sheets that you stick things onto.
Oh, right.
You
Yeah, because it
buy
it
a
lays
picture.
this way,
Yeah,
right? So it sticks
there's
onto
there's a
something.
sheet.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
And then that
feeds
gets
on a sticky sheet,
yeah.
and the sticky sheets run out of sticky, and they're not re-stickyable. So you have to just end up using them and throwing them away, and the waste in that really bothers me. And I'm hoping that they're going to find a better solution than this,
Yeah. That'd be
because
nice.
I mean, even if you can't just hold it down, though, it has to stick the whole thing, because as soon as it starts cutting it, the pieces will lift,
It
and so
shifts,
it's not
yeah.
like you just put tape around the side or yeah. So I can see why this is
Yeah.
the solution. It's not my favorite.
I
Yeah.
mean, I had this idea for making like a. If you ever seen how they cut fabric or leather or anything in like
Yeah.
an industrial factory, they have like a vacuum table,
Yeah.
right? They put it on, yeah, and it just holds it in place. And I thought if you
Yeah.
could make one that just had a tiny gap, because the thing only has enough lift for so much. But if you could have like a 3 mil sheet that's just a hollow core with some supports
Yep.
and two little pump
Yep.
things, it would be enormously. One day when I have money and time,
Invent
Over
a
I will have it
engineering.
suction table.
machined out. My so if we're talking about the cricket, my special piece of advice for you is if you were cutting small tokens like meeples or little discs, um, do not underestimate the amount of space you want to put between them, because the more that board flexes, the more it's going to lift off of there, and the blade is likely to kick those little things out because a little disc only has so much adhesion area.
Right.
So give them a generous gap. With cards, I give them 0.05 inches, whatever, just because that's trial and errors work. But if you get tokens glued up on board, they want to jump out, and when they jump out, they often get caught on the blade, and then half the sheet is it just drawing that token all over the frame. And it takes forever to cut them when you've got like 40 tokens on a thing, and it takes 6 cuts around each one to cut it. Yeah, just do two
Avoid the
sheets.
sadness.
Yeah.
Avoid the sadness.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because I am so lo-fi compared to that. I just cut everything by hand. I have arc punches and a hammer, like a rawhide hammer, an arc punch, and a piece of wood. So I'll just sit there and pound on those if I want round tokens. But I don't actually usually make round tokens unless I'm making like some. For me, that's like a super fancy prototype. I
But it
will
lets
just
us
cut
do
stuff
this
by
complexity.
hand. Sure. Yeah.
Consistently, though, that's the thing. So
Yeah.
for things like this, yeah, that's pretty, but then we can also, like, I had to test some tile shapes. And if I cut them all by hand, I wasn't going to have the same consistency, because them being even a mill out meant that the test wasn't working. So
Yeah.
they had to be precisely and exactly. So, I mean, yes, a lot of it is just, enabling us to not do as much, but it's also nice to not have to be super, super, super careful about exactly how you cut it. Because George definitely, he's very precise, and he tried to hand cut some of these tiles, and even with him being super precise, they still weren't.
Oh yeah.
After
I'm
you've
not. I'm
done,
not saying they
there are
would be.
48 in this game.
I'm just saying I
It's a
don't
lot.
care. I don't care to be
Oh,
that
I mean,
precise if the
for
game
most
doesn't
things,
need
it
to be
doesn't
that
really matter.
precise. Yeah. Um, so what other prototyping tools other than the Cricut do you use a lot? So you said quarter rounder. What else is there?
I use a lot of digital tools for prototyping with.
I mean, that was
I use data merges. I create a lot of basic symbols and things like that I use. I've chosen a series of colors that I use in a lot of my prototypes that I know will differentiate from each other easily when they print and things like that, so that I don't have to think about, those colors and in the initial stages and all that sort of thing. So I've got a little bank of easy stuff and my spreadsheet from my data images that I can just reuse for new stuff, like just make a copy and go.
Yeah.
And obviously taking bits from other games. This is a thing from another game. Well, I'm just going to borrow it for this, or I've got this box of random tokens and stuff like that ends up getting used for a bunch of different prototypes.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, um, bits.
I am
Bits.
trying to embrace the whiteout pen. Like not
Okay.
not like in a bottle, but like I'm often obsessed with like, oh, there's a there's a typo on this card. I guess I have to reprint these. No, George, don't have to reprint them. You can just white out that spot and write over it the correct word and keep on going with your day.
It's
And
funny. Stefan Alexander had a bottle of whiteout with him at the last playtest we were at. He just whips it out and he paints over it, and it's like that's perfect. And this is a type of game that if you had like crossed it out, or you because it was a clue giving thing, or if you had written it in pen, we'd all know that was wrong, because it's the wrong thing. And so it's like, oh, that is handy to have around. Whiteout is kind of a handy thing. But it means your prototypes are going to have to be lo-fi by nature, which is fine by me. The other thing that you could do if you sleeve your cards, which I usually don't make like good cards at all. I use sleeves, and I have like
yeah.
backing cards from like there's a whole deck of them right here from what's that game? An unlocked game that I finished and will never play again, right? And so there's like 120 cards that I can use to back things with. And I don't even use good cardstock. I just use paper, slide them in there. And then when I need to make a new card or change something on that card, I just write on it because I don't care. Or I'll put like a sticky note on there because it's in a sleeve. It doesn't really affect the shuffleability too much. So I find being less precious allows me to make more changes. That being said, I definitely do like a nice prototype eventually. It's nice to have that. It is kind of a nice feeling to play with something that looks almost like it would. And definitely, guys, I mean, there's definitely, if you're playing at like a public playtesting event where at like Unpub, where people who aren't game designers can be walking around to your table, you're definitely going to catch more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. So that is definitely a thing where nicer table presence can affect the outcome if your outcome is getting a lot of non-game design or game industry people to try out the game.
I feel like it's often I sleeve everything. I can't stand it. Makes cheap paper feel like it's something I can shuffle, like a more good crisp kind of card kind of thing.
Because you're an ex-Magic player.
Yes.
Because there are people who hate sleeves, but they also are not Magic players.
Yes, they don't understand. So I really want to try those sleeves that are open on the wide side. I've never had those before.
I've never seen those either.
Apparently they're for tournament players because you have to at the higher levels you have to constantly re-sleeve, and it's so much faster to chuck them in that way. Yeah, I've never tried them. I'm curious.
I guess it is.
This is what I'm told. I've never, like I said.
It's funny because that's how you shuffle in. Well,
but if you're gonna, I don't know how they work out. Yeah, it's a curiosity. But with the lo-fi versus pretty, like it seems like it's a catch-22. Like if you put something pretty down, people say like, oh well, you probably spend too much time on the art. And if you put something lo-fi down, they're like, well, I can't quite like. Maybe if these were, the graphic design was better, they say, it'd be easier to engage with this. Like, and I know you can make a lo-fi design that has a strong graphic design to it, but like, I think whenever I go one way, I get the other feedback, and vice versa. I just do what makes me happy at this point. You're damned
if you do, you're damned if you don't, right? In some ways, because generally
what I do is I'll make the first prototype for me, because I'm trying to get the feeling of the game. I'm trying to make sure I understand how it feels. So this is the very first prototype of this game. I know what the backs of the cards will approximately look like, that sort of thing. I also know that I have no idea how the fronts of the cards are going to work yet. So they're generally pretty chaotic. They've got, like in this case, they've got little stick figures representing possible illustrations. There are too many icons, all that kind of thing, because what I'm doing is I'm trying to see where I'm actually looking on the card when I play this game. And then I'll pull it all the way back for what I actually test with other people. So this prototype is about me and my understanding of this game for my first play tests with me. Then it'll go out in the world and it'll go back down to being super lo-fi, black and white, simple, like this is a placeholder, this is value X and Y and so on.
So do you
and
have,
then,
like
David's saying in the comments.
Yeah. My question was, do you have like a so the first version, if I'm understanding you right, is kind of like you getting a better understanding of of the final shape of the game, but at an earlier stage, and then you kind of
Because part of
dial
my
it back.
design process is illustrating,
Yeah,
I tend to make the first prototype so that I can feel how that's going to look. But when I'm actually going to be playing it with other people, I don't want them to think they can't give me feedback. So
right.
I will do the black and white version or the low whatever version. So like this is a prototype that I had made just for myself for a game where I've drawn all of the icons. People were walking past going, "Wow, okay, is that ready?" And I was like, "Nah, this is the first time we've ever played it." Um, and
Yeah,
so, people were excited and interested in it, but the risk is that people think that it's a lot further along than it actually is,
yeah, that's true
and
too,
they
right?
won't give you the useful feedback. So generally for most people I would advise stay low, stay simple at first, and then make it, be happy to write all over it and everything else with your early prototypes, and then start
Yeah,
making it fancier later. But for
yeah.
me, I
So
need that first one to give me the feeling of the game, so then I can dial back, and then I can add that
mhm.
stuff back in again. But yeah,
Yeah, which
I
is kind of what
can't.
I was meaning by the shape of it, right? Like you kind of get to see the intent and the vision. David
A
was
lot of
writing,
it's
I
more like the
know.
feeling.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's not
Um,
even necessarily the components, it's the actual, it does this game feel right if the
mhm.
cards are this color and have this illustration and these tiles, and it's the really thinking about the experience, not the specific shape of the mechanics, or it's really just do it is this the right vibe for this game?
Yeah, that's what I mean by shape.
Mm.
Like, like so. Like the shape of something to me is the wholeness of it, as opposed to the visual shape of it. I don't mean that at all. I mean, like, what is this? The vibe, really? What is the vibe of this whole game? And sometimes you do have to go forward to kind of feel it out, right? That's all I meant by that. David says, I know those with more artistic skills often go pretty
There
early,
is
but I
definitely
tend
a
to
visual element, but I mean,
um, lean towards protos. Should be lo-fi until you're getting pretty close to finish because things are going to change. I want feedback on mechanics, not art. Yeah, yeah, which is kind of what Kat was going at as well. Sorry, Kat, I cut you off there.
I think we've still got that delay. Um,
Yeah, I think so.
and yeah, this is what I was saying. Like Dave's comment is why I was saying yes. One of the things I learned was initially, because I, I illustrate when I'm designing. I want my prototypes, my early prototypes, to be as pretty as possible. But I've learned that can be my first prototype, which is for me. But when I'm taking them out, I need them to be in a place where other people see that this is an early prototype,
Right.
because even with what I consider to be an early prototype art, a lot of people are like, oh, and so they get all caught up in the visual of it. Oh, this doesn't have the right contrast, or graphic design's not good on this. And I'm like, yeah, it's the first prototype. Um, yeah, and so they get sort of tangled, which
Yes.
is not what I'm wanting to do. So I tend to go back to the black and white and the very simple. This is all in Arial font and so forth. Do you want to talk about
Yeah, I mean
Josh's
that's kind
question?
of what I was going to show. Yeah, in a second, but I was just going to show a card here. So this is kind of the way the cards that we would
Oh
make
yeah,
was just super simple, no
Yeah.
art,
yeah.
lots of just a block for text and icons and numbers. That's it. Like a title, there might be a reference number on here somewhere, but that's basically sort of what we get to. And it's funny because a lot of the stuff that we make ends up looking very similar when the publishers get done with it. I mean, it's better art, but the layout is typically the same or similar, and we sort of get cheesed off at the saying like, "Hey, we did this just because we suck at this, but not because we're great at it." But I guess we learned a little bit along the way that some of the stuff we do is okay, but we still think it could be a little bit better if somebody else did it a little bit better than we did. Oh, what is the best kind of barbecue?
We're all
That is a
showing
good question.
cards, so show cards too.
Everybody's showing cards.
Drawing
Okay.
card.
showing
All right.
carrots.
Oh, let's gain slash lose watchers. I'm a fan of the mustard and vinegary kind of stuff, so I'm gonna go out on a limb and say Carolina. Whoa.
I
Oh,
don't like that
Carolina.
one. I like kiwi barbecue, which is burnt
Oh, what's that?
sausages on the beach. Yeah,
Burnt
that's what
sausages
we
on the
call barbecue.
beach.
Burnt sausages on the beach. That's what I like, with
Specifically
a
burnt.
piece of worthless white bread and Waddy's tomato sauce.
Okay. I am very particular to good barbecue, kind of any culture, but obviously char siu, which is Chinese
Mm,
barbecue pork, is amazing. But I
Mm.
really do like a good brisket is
mm.
chef's kiss. So if you can make a good brisket, I will try it and rate you, and I will be judgy about your brisket if you want. Yeah, Luke says sometimes as an artist you can't help yourself, and you just do it, and you can always use the art somewhere else as well, right?
Yeah, that's the easy justification for me. Is whatever I used it while this helped me get to where I got to with my process, and I can
Yeah,
use that for something else if it
yeah,
doesn't.
and I think people who are designers who are also illustrators, or at least in some way artistic, oftentimes it is part of the process to get to the next step is to do some art for it, and I think that shouldn't be discouraged, right?
It's the
um
thinking process. It's like doodling,
yeah,
only more
yeah,
intense. Yes. It,
yeah. Or in a
Erin
sense,
is
the,
also a
the, the
Kiwi, so
sausages must be burnt. Yeah, must be burnt.
yes, yes, I
Luke
believe
likes sweet and spicy. And then Josh, yes, one day I will come down and visit and judge your brisket. I should make a shirt that says that I will judge your brisket.
I think I'm not sure which American style barbecue I like the best, but I think it might be the Texas one. I'm not sure. I like burnt ends. There's a theme,
Yeah, yeah, well, yeah, burnt ends are very Texas
and
style,
I don't like overly sweet or overly vinegary. Yeah, I like pulled pork
right?
so
Yeah,
long as it's not super dry, but I don't
yeah. Well,
like it when it's
so
swimming
if,
in like
if you're not
sauce.
if you're not moist by the end of barbecue, you didn't eat good barbecue. That's
This
that's
is a
that's what I'll
solid.
say.
Mm.
Yeah, right. Cool. So, other than barbecue questions, which are very legit, are there any other questions from the audience for this supposed AMA? You can ask us anything within reason about tabletop games. How about that? That's the limit. Yes, David's saying that Texas is typically beef focused and light on the sauce.
Oh yes.
Butterfly chicken on the
Um,
barbecue. Yeah, it's
I
good.
just miss a really good. Oh, I just forgot the word. It just went out of my head. What are
Spatchcock?
the no
What's
the
the
sausages that you used to be able to get everywhere in New Zealand? Now you can't. Not Savoy's.
um
Starts with a C.
Kranskis? No, that's a
No.
Is it a
Italian.
Although,
brand
oh
or
my
a
goodness,
type?
I wish you could get Kranskis here.
Mm.
Oh, I miss a good Kransky.
What's your favorite color? Yellow.
Ooh.
Oh,
Yellow is 100% my favorite color.
My favorite color, just in general, would be a green very similar to the green of this couch, which never really shows up well on camera, but it's kind of a chartreuse
Yeah.
kind of color.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Um, but I don't care what color I play in a game. My main thing is, does it have enough contrast against whatever color the board is that I can see it? That's it. George.
Is it
um,
Bortwurst? Is that the type of
Board.
sausage?
or
It's a great typo. No,
or is it?
chipolatas. Chipolatas.
Ah, yes, those.
Yes, I miss a chipolata.
Yeah. What's your favorite color, George? Did we
I
get
mean,
there?
black is cheating, but so I'm gonna say purple.
All right.
Uh, yeah.
Uh, Dave asks, I'm going to be doing a game design workshop for complete beginners in a few months. Kat did that last summer. What are some things you have wanted to know when you first started that Dave can then bring up to his class?
Assuming these are adults,
Are they
um,
adults, David?
I mean, I'm assuming that they're adults. I think the important thing is that you make sure that they're all starting on the same footing. So I would, regardless of how much experience some of the people in the group have, I'd make sure that everyone has definitions to start with. Because one of the things that I didn't understand was a lot of these words people were using that were floating around, like game mechanics. And I was like, is that a little person with a spanner running around? Like, what is this? Oh, mechanisms? Why are they saying mechanics?
because they're
Um,
American.
but I mean, that kind of thing that's not quite jargon, but on the edge of jargon, I would make sure that they understand that and what the format of a game is.
Yeah,
Like,
I think that's a
what
great
is a
point.
game? What's the arc of a game?
Yeah, having a good baseline so everybody's sort of starting on the same page before you get into like the project work. Good point. George, what about you? What would you want to have included in a course? Maybe stuff
Um,
that you didn't know when you were first starting out that you wish you did.
uh, Tell people what orthogonal means. That's a good place to start. Like, so don't get caught out. No, seriously. Well, yes, that. But seriously, that whatever's in your head probably isn't going to work. So get it onto a table quickly, and then you can find out that it doesn't work, but some part of it might work. Yeah, you can't design a game entirely in your head, and have it be right. I would say this is a lesson that I still have to tell myself.
Yeah, like get it down, put it on the table, right? You
Yeah,
can't.
I mean, yes, I'm trying to find
If
the
somebody else
longer way
can't
of
shove
saying
the
that.
pieces around, is it really a game? I don't know.
And it's funny because like I go through cycles where I'm like, okay, now I think I've probably got enough experience game designing that this game design is probably going to be actually game before I make the prototype is game is good, and then I make the prototype and I'm like, still not game, still
Yeah.
needs work, still have to get to table before I get to the stage, must break it here, not here. I
Yeah,
don't think it ever gets to the point where you can actually just birth a fully formed and fully functional perfect game in your first landing. I just don't think that's a real thing, and we shouldn't aspire to it. Maybe one or two people can, but outliers
no,
shouldn't be considered.
it's really hard. So okay, I can make a game. The question is it good is totally different than is this a game. Um, but I think what you get good at as you get more experience is eliminating the things that you don't have to make. Right? It's like, oh no, that's not going to work. Oh, I don't think that'll work. And then you're like, I think this might work. Um, it's not going to be
Which fits the core loop, yeah.
yeah, and I think you can if you just kind of approach things with curiosity as a I wonder if this will work. you'll be you'll have a lot better feelings about the whole situation and yourself as a human being if you ask those questions as opposed to assuming that this is going to work, this is going to be perfect, this is going to be the best ever. um, because yeah, I mean, I definitely have made games whole cloth straight from my head, and they worked, but they're not at all interesting or fun or engaging or any of the things you would want a game to be. So, is it actually a game? I guess because it had a challenge that I had to overcome, and I chose to overcome it. Then yeah, I guess it's a game. But
I suppose
also
that would be the other thing. And just put this way, like
for
where
David,
just things that I would like to have been known, like
yeah,
to ask myself, like, I'll put it this way: where is the dopamine in this experience? Like the
yeah,
fact that you've created a number of novel mechanics that work together and let you do a thing, that's cool. But and it doesn't have to be fun, though
Yeah.
usually a game is fun, but like it has to be
engaging.
engaging, yes, in some way. And if there's no sense of reward at the end of it, whether you lost or won or whatever, it might not be good.
Right.
Um,
Well, that's a great point.
yeah. So I mean, I did, yeah, that would so interrogate your own design from that perspective, and you may save yourself some
Yes.
time.
And this goes towards hooks, right? When you're talking about a real hook, it's what creates that moment, that moment for you of dopamine or whatever
Yeah.
fiero if you're using more jargon from the game design world, which is actually a very specific kind of response, by the way.
Okay.
Not all games create fiero. but there are games that are still good games that don't create Fiero. But Fiero is one of the things where it's like the hands in the air experience, right?
Ah, okay.
That cheering out loud experience, which is a very big dopamine hit, but it's from a specific thing.
Mm.
And really good games do create that, but not all really good games do. So it's this kind of thing. Anyway, but yeah, I think that's a great point about your hook and figuring out, does this game have a hook that makes it worth pursuing beyond this singular prototype that formed from my head,
Mm.
I think if you can articulate it, that is a good start. Or if you can see that it might be there, like a diamond in the rough type of thing, where if you polish it just a little bit more, I think it's there, then it's worth looking at. But I've definitely given up on things that's like, oh, that thing I thought would be fun, not fun at all. The hook that I thought is a hook, not really a hook.
Mm.
Let's put it away. Which is why, again, I don't really believe that like a theme is a hook. I think that's bait that
Mm.
gets you to look at something. But what I think is a hook is something that gets you to play it again and again, which, as a person who studies behavior psychology a lot, right? That's what I
Mm.
do. That's the reward cycle. Does this game reward you for playing it? That's really, in my opinion, what a hook is. So, hey, Deadpan, how you doing? Curve Cut Luke was talking about working on a game with combos and was thinking about limiting actions to 3 per turn. But when he was playtesting, a particular player got a 5 action turn and he thought that she broke the game, but then the other players let it happen. So maybe it was just a great move. And so that's a neat situation, right? That you can find out, you can learn things about your own game by letting other people interact with it and see what they would do, right? Because it's really hard to play as an irrational actor when you are a rational actor, or even to play as a rational actor in another way of thinking when you have, 1 or 2 ways of playing games, right? I know we contain multitudes, but oftentimes we play the games the way we play them. So it's fascinating that different people can show you different things about your games through the play testing. So yeah, that's really neat. Um, any other
Generally,
questions? Yeah, go ahead.
I think Luke is maybe sort of trying to figure out whether he should limit it or not. Um, my my thing that I do with early prototypes when I'm testing them is whenever anyone asks if they can do something, I say yes.
Yeah,
I just say yes and see what happens. And if it doesn't work, I'll be like, okay, well, I guess we figured out that the answer to that was no. But so I would recommend in this context just say, yeah, sure, okay. You can do however many actions you can do, and let the game
yeah,
decide that, and just see what happens. And if it sucks, then okay, then put in your limit. But
yeah.
sounds like
Sometimes
someone.
you can see that coming up, right? You know that if you could spend all the money all the time, that person would win on turn 1. That's obviously something you can kind of limit ahead of time. But it's stuff that you don't know, yeah, let it ride, man. Just let it happen, and you can soft change that in the middle of the game. We're not going to do that next turn, or we'll reset it, or,
I
or
don't.
whatever.
I don't mean like the core rules. I'll tell people what the core rules are, but then they'll be like, "Oh, if I this, then can I that?" I'll be like, "Sure," because I haven't made a rule about that. I've just got my core rules for the game. I've got my basic core loop. Yeah, okay. Let's see. And it's really interesting what comes out of that, and often it proves what I was thinking the rule should be. But sometimes I'm like, "Huh, that was cool." Sorry, George, you were starting to say something.
Oh, it's I suppose more directly to what you're asking, I would be curious, does it delay the game unnecessarily? I mean, it's funny this comes up. Brief aside, I was listening to a story about like the Magic decks today. I swear it won't
Of
be too
course, I
deep.
knew it was going to be
And
about Magic, and I
and
bet
it
I know
was
the thing
about
it's going to be about.
it was about this deck that was around for a couple months in the early 2010s called Eggs, which I didn't play during this period. But basically, I won't go into the weeds about it. But it's a deck that took like between an hour and 2 hours in tournament play to kill you.
Yeah.
And is that good for the game? No,
No.
I would say no. I would say that that is a net negative, and they ended up banning the cards, and because it actually delayed tournament play so long that it made it difficult to finish a tournament, like from a purely practical perspective.
Yes.
Obviously, your combos are going to take 2 hours, but like if everyone's sitting around waiting for someone to blow up, that's maybe not fun. But like if someone's just doing something a little big, maybe it's a cool moment. I don't know.
Yeah. There is something neat about it. There's something very much about what you're saying, George.
Mm,
I'm a black blue player, and
mm,
the deck that I used to destroy people with was just like, it's going to be a milling deck, right? So I
mm.
would let nobody else play ever.
Right, you have to ask, can I play this? That's the whole
No, you
game, right?
cannot.
Yeah,
You cannot.
exactly. Yeah.
I'll just whatever I couldn't counter spell, I would you could just delete from your hand. Any land that you
Yeah.
had there, I'm gonna sinkhole it. It's destroyed, right? So did I win almost every tournament I played in? Yes. Did I make friends? No.
Yeah.
Was it a legal way of playing at the time? Yes. And so I exploited the rules. But was it
Mm,
fun? It was
mm,
only fun for one person. That one person was me.
mm.
And it wasn't even fun because it was just procedural, right? Because
Right.
at that
Mm,
point it just becomes a procedure as opposed to a play because I'm not
mm,
playing anything. Did I draw the right cards in my hand? And that's based
mm,
on deck distribution and deck
mm,
building, which happens before the game even happens,
mm,
which is not where they wanted to go. So they started to limit a lot of those types of plays. So that's the cool thing about Magic and the meta of Magic is that they can ban things out of existence. So you can have the card, but you just can't play with it in tournament format
mm,
so that you don't kill the vibe
mm,
of what it's supposed to be. Oh, another thing I wanted to say before we move on from
mm.
Luke's question is this. Do you know what desire pathways are, Luke? If you don't, go look them up. Desire pathways, a really good example of one is like a corner cut where there's a right angled corner and all the kids will walk across the old man's lawn, right? And cut a path through there. And a lot of times when we're playing games, we make all these rules, but then the players sort of break them by like, why do I have to draw my cards at the beginning of my turn? Why can't I draw them at the end, or vice versa, or whatever? And sometimes there's a really good reason for why that happens, and other times there is no good reason for why that happens, and you just wrote a rule because you thought you should write a rule. And oftentimes, what's most intuitive for players to do for lots of different reasons, and some of it is just because it's like common game vernacular, common game actions to take in that order. It's sometimes better for you to go with what they desire than what you want if the end result is roughly the same, right? So think about that as well. Let's see here.
I
Yeah, go ahead, George.
do want to throw one more note on that about the special moments in games and you feeling it was broken. Like I think my favorite moments, and again, it comes from Magic and playing games like that, is any moment where I feel like I did something that the designer didn't expect. Like when if I broke the game in a little way that doesn't actually break the rules, but I can feel smart in that special way.
Yeah,
For I
clever,
found
right?
I found something that wasn't anticipated. Those are wonderful
Clever
moments for
girl.
me. Yes. And so if you were impressed by something that someone did, I'll bet they felt impressed with it too. So maybe that's a cool moment that's worth retaining. That's all.
Right. Dave is
It
saying
does
that.
sound like that was a cool moment. It sounds like she got a massive score from doing something clever.
Yeah, and if it's something that's available to everybody, um, I'm the type of player that will always try to shoot the moon if there's an option for shooting the moon. If there's like an alt win condition, I'm going for that alt win condition just to see if I can do it. Right.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
that's
totally.
also pretty fun too. Right.
Mm,
Dave's saying that he played a game a
Same.
couple weeks ago where there was no restriction on the number of actions, and they just discovered very quickly for that specific game, it would result in an infinite game loop where the game would never end. And yeah, that's the type of thing you can only really find out with playtesting, right? So there are some really neat things. Actually, that's a good question. So, if everybody else has more questions, please put them in the chat. But what's one cool thing that you found out from playtesting your own game with other people that other people kind of pointed out to you?
ooh.
You're like, wow, I did not know
Oh,
that.
one very specific situation. I mean, it's happened quite a few times, but I can't think of a specific time when I was like that I can. This is like those job interviews where they're like, "Tell me about a time where," and it's not one of the ones you prepared, and you're like,
Yeah. Oh, you mean the time when
"Oh,
you had a weakness that's really a strength?
Mm. Yeah.
well." And I mean, I often end up just sort of shoving several events together until I've got a
Yeah.
story to tell. And so I guess I can do that. Like there have
Yeah,
been
go ahead.
several playtests where I've put some stuff together and put it in front of people to see what they would do with it, and they've ended up doing something even cooler than I expected. And I've been like, "Huh, neat. This part of this thing for this game is even better than I thought. I'll keep that bit." Um, whereas, so oh yeah, there's an example. So in one of the versions of Dogwood, my friend Wes Todd was playing that, and he managed to really like grok how to figure out how to get really high scoring things, and so he was slamming through and getting all of these points, like absolutely thrashing me at my own game. And I was like, yeah, that's what should happen because he's better at this kind of game than me, so he should be able to beat me at it if I've done it right. So that was a moment. There you go. Okay, George, I think I made enough noise for you to have time to think of something.
My experience with it, I think, has more been finding out there are parts of my games that people, for whatever, like that they'll approach the game and they will ignore an entire section that I thought was novel or interesting, and still do very well. And I'm like just because, well, I just didn't think I needed that, and I don't know if you need it. Is it still Are there players who still want to play with that because it's an interesting alternate way to? You're talking about like finding a different way to alternate path to victory, but like if it's something that a player just ignores entirely, um, is it surplus to requirements? Am I just adding complication without value? So those moments I find sometimes I often throw a kitchen sink at a game, like all of the kitchen sinks, to start with, and just see what falls off when people play. So I guess the natural. Oh, have we just lost the?
I guess we're sinless.
There we
No?
are.
Yes.
No, I'm back.
But yeah, that's the sort of the thing that I am taught about my own games quite a bit. What I thought would be the most engaging thing is sometimes the thing that people just don't even engage with.
It's interesting, how different
Mm.
people's brains work. It's
Mm.
so fun. I'll tell you a story about what we learned. We learned that playtesting with the same group over and over can lead to like design creep, um, especially in a game where things are modular and where players keep wanting to add stuff. Like, oh, we've mastered this, let's add more.
Mm.
And I think you've probably heard the story before about how we broke Matt Leacock's brain. So we were testing a game. The game was the game that is now Mind Management. And it was, if you've played Mind Management, you know that in Mind Management there are like 14 little sub boxes called shift systems. And if you can imagine, the game that Matt played was Mind Management, but with all 14 expansions in it. And he's like, I, you're breaking my brain, right? And it was him and Sean Jackman, who works for Kids Table Board Games, and Evan Derrick, who is with Van Ryder Games. So people who are game designers, players, etc., etc. And they were like, "This is way too much." And Jay and I were like, "What do you mean? It's our play testers can handle this." I mean, we didn't say that to their face, but we're back in like the hotel room going, "What happened?" And it's just sort of that thing where when you have multiple playtest groups but they're the same group, they are just getting better and better at your game, and they want it more and more difficult because it no longer is the challenge that they want it to be. But when they first played it, it was really challenging for them, and you just kind of lose sight of that. And so I guess the warning here is make sure you don't design for your playtesters, but that you take their feedback seriously. But remember that if there are people who played it multiple times, that the people who play it for a first time aren't going to have their depth of experience, right, or knowledge of the game or the system. And so what happened was, because we spent so much time on all the things that are now expansions that we put into the base game originally, we had to strip it all out, which was actually a good thing because it made it more accessible for people who played it the first time. And then it created this whole other thing where we said, well, what if, like, Jay is like, well, we can't get rid of all these things. What are we going to do with it all? And I said, yeah, kind of jokingly said, like, well, what if it all was in the game? He said, what do you mean? I said, well, I mean, like, kind of like a legacy game, but not legacy. And that's where it became this, which is a shift system where if you play it multiple times between the same group, of people, because it's a one versus many game. The sides can the losing side gets an expansion that helps them. That's basically what it is. And eventually, once you open everything, you get to kind of pick and choose which ones you want to use against your opponent. So yeah, it's the interesting thing that happens when you get those things. Luke is further explaining that his experience was um, uh, that the person who played that massive combo, she planned it, and it was great. Set it up and exploited it. And I think that's when you feel clever, right, George? When you can set something up, you see something, you exploit it. As long as the rules don't say no, I mean,
Mm.
why not? And then Lucas also telling us about an experience where there was a mechanism, cat, that wasn't needed, but he couldn't let it go because it was in the game for the first experience, and learning to cut that, which streamlined the game in an excellent way, was a learning experience, right? Which I think is a
Mm.
wonderful thing as well. Is, you know, the term that you might hear bandied about is pretty violent. It's murder your darlings,
Darlings. Yeah.
which is not the greatest ways to say it. But it should be, don't be beholden to things that are there just because they're there. It's like what we say about tradition, right? Tradition is just somebody else's baggage, and you don't necessarily have to carry it.
Mm.
So Dave then says, what happened to George has happened to him more than once. With Winter Rabbit, which is a game that David just kickstarted, like, was it last year or the beginning of this year? I can't remember. Um, I think it was last year. I don't know anymore. This year has gone very quickly for me in my brain.
It's just
But
delivered.
with Winter Rabbit,
Delivered early this year, so I think
there you go. Okay, that's why my brain is kind of weird about this. Um, there were mechanisms that they later pulled out, revised, and added back in to have stronger ties to the core loop of gameplay, right? So, and that's the other thing that you'll find out when you're playtesting, is that people will wonder why things are there. And in our heads as the designers, we know why we put it
Mm.
there, but maybe we didn't make it apparent. Or maybe there's not really that the strong link that we saw. Or maybe we just have to like message it better. And I think that's also something that happens. August of last year was the Kickstarter and delivered in April. That's a really nice turnaround, David. Congratulations. There you go. So we're at
Like,
the 1 hour
yeah.
mark, but go ahead, George.
I would say that makes an interesting point. Like, I often think, and maybe other people have this too, that like when I play games, I like discovering things, discovering the interaction, the combos. But like those shouldn't be obfuscated like playing one of those '90s mystery full motion video games where like you just have to click on everything
Yeah.
for 4 hours and talk to everyone until you finally find the thing that triggers the next path. Like, it should be something that you feel like you've discovered, but really the designer laid a path to it, like in advance. Um, Nothing should be a mystery to anyone. Like, and the fact that it's in my head as a designer doesn't mean that everyone else is going to see it too. Like, if I want them to eventually find it, I should lay a path to it.
Yes, I believe so. I also think that way. All right, everybody. So
Okay.
it is 1 hour. We're in 1 hour. I don't mind sticking around a little longer if people have questions, or if Kat has anything else she'd like to say, or George has anything else he'd like to say. But are there questions from the audience? If there are, that'd be great. We can answer a few more. And if not, that's okay too. We have to go start thinking about cleaning up and packing, apparently.
I'm never sure because of the delay now. I'm like, is it okay to talk?
Yes.
No, it looks like that's probably all the questions that people had for us at the moment. I was thinking about something, but then I got distracted. Um, I think it was. Oh yeah, no, that comes back around to. So what I was saying when I say yes in a playtest, people ask me if I can do something. I don't say yes innocently to every single thing, just random. Fit in with the sort of kill your darlings mindset, where I know as a new designer, I was very much, no, my whole game is all of this and it's got to have all of this and you can't take any of it. Now I'm like, let's just see. Let's just see. Maybe this concept that I have for this game should be allowed to breathe and I should just let it out there and see what happens, because a game is designed to actually leave me completely and go out and see what happens when it's in other people's hands. So
Mhm.
if I try and control it too much, maybe it's not getting a chance to grow. So that's my biggest lesson, I think, as a game designer, is not so much kill your darlings, which has always been an expression that didn't make sense to me, but more be open to letting your game grow and breathe and develop, and let the game take the lead on where it wants to go.
Yeah, like a horse whisperer. You're a game whisperer. You listen to the game talking to you. I think the same way in a lot of ways. Like I have a vision at the outset, and I always have a vision, but I will revise that vision if things change, if the game wants to be something different. But what I do is I use that vision to guide, like as a touchstone. Am I following that? Did I diverge? And if I did diverge, did we diverge for a good reason? Like, why did we do that? What's the rationale behind that? Are we doing that because it's just cool? Are we doing that because it's the hot new mechanic that is at the garage right now? The hot new mechanism that's in another game that we saw. Why are we doing this thing?
You can say
And does it
it. You
serve
can.
or support the thing? I know. I don't. I don't actually say mechanic. I say mechanism myself. So I just think it's funny. So yeah, there's a lot of things that you can do with a vision document. Like start out with one. Like, what is the game going to be at the end of the day? What do you hope it's going to be? And it's like a hope and a dream thing. It's not necessarily written in stone either, right? Like Kat said, you can change. These things can happen. But it's a good thing to have as a guiding light. I also use it when I'm pitching, because something that will happen, because I very much make lo-fi stuff, right? But invariably, you should have a vision of what your game should look like on the table or on the game shelf, on the store shelf, or something like that. A lot of publishers will ask you that exact question. What do you think this is going to look like on the table? What do you think this is going to look like on the shelf? If you, like me, don't make a full blown prototype that looks glamorous and glitzy. Sometimes you may have to have that vision in your head as opposed to the actual components. And for a lot of publishers, that's actually good enough. They don't really need to see the rest of it. They'll make it happen from what their experiences are and what their customer base wants and what they are good at and not good at in terms of manufacturing and whatnot. So there you go. Excellent. Oh, hey, this is a good question. No, hey, that's okay. And Luke, no, it's always better late than never. Andrew asked the question that we were kind of dreading. We had said that earlier. Do you want to talk about the tariff? I don't want to talk about the tariff. You want to talk about the tariff? But we're going to talk about the tariff. It seems that's okay. So Andrew's saying that they are planning on going to Origins this year to pitch a game. How doomed is that given the tariffs at all? So Kat had a couple rejoinders to that.
So one of the things that a lot of publishers are doing right now, apart from just pulling back and sort of going, we're just going to wait and see, is they're thinking, okay, but I've still got a business to run, and there's only so long I can wait and see for. What is there that I can make more easily here, or that I can, so here in the US, or that I can make in ways that the tariffs won't hit me as hard, and that my price increases don't need to be as great. And most of the publishers I've spoken to over the last 6 months or so have been coming back saying card games. Card games that are easily portable, card games that generally don't have any other bits, particularly avoiding plastic, and anything that needs to be made in China. So yeah, literally just cards if you can do it. But the other thing that they're really asking designers not to give them any more of is trick takers, unless your trick taker is the trick taker to end all trick takers. And honestly, I would be amazed, because there are just so many out there. make your point of difference that you're not that.
True.
One of the other things that I would avoid is ones where you're overlaying other cards, because we've seen a lot of really brilliant, really clever implementations of things like that. Like my favorite to always go to is Ukiyo. I just love the way that they take that really simple concept and they overlay. You've only got 16 cards in this game, and it goes up to 4 players, but it's covered, it's done. I would steer away from that side of it. I would be exactly going for the networking, asking them what they're looking for, and then aiming to target your offerings to what's out there, in the same way as Sen was saying, think about how it's going to look on the table or the shelf. Really think about what gets manufactured in China and how you can get around it with a game.
Yeah.
And in a rare moment of optimism for me, I mean, certainly with the larger companies. I mean, well, I mean, we at least the few that we talked to recently, like they have schedules that are planned out to like 2027, 2028. It is unlikely that the situation will remain static that long. So the companies with the, if your game is not something that fits into the aforementioned categories of small and portable and easy to manufacture in multiple locations, like there may, if it's interesting enough, there may be, especially with the larger companies, someone who is interested because they are looking that far ahead and they know that this too shall pass. So don't despair.
Yeah.
Be realistic, but
Yeah. I mean, so understand, Andrew and everybody else out there, that a publisher that is getting games today will be printing it in 2027, 28. But if you have a really quick to make and produce in US, you might find yourself getting a game out sooner. If a company can print something now to get it here for market, for Christmas, for all those things, um, that may be something that can be done in reasonable times given the current situation of the world. Um, and some companies need to do that. It is not everybody is in the situation, but some companies are in like a publisher perish situation where they need to keep money coming in, right, by printing things and making things. So yeah, right. So a lot of stuff. The materials, like you said, pulp paper will be imported from other countries.
You're literally talking about cards,
Yeah,
and that you need to be thinking about tuck boxes like this kind of a tuck box. As soon as you get to a
yeah. So not a
box like
telescopic
this,
box.
even
That's a
just for
telescopic
cards,
box. Yeah.
no.
We can't do them as well here, if at all, right? So um, yeah, you want
Not
to
at a price point
be
that people will do. No.
no. So yeah, you want to avoid anything that's not printed on your 300 GSM card stock that you'd use for like playing cards, right? So American companies can do playing cards. You can look into Delano, you can look into Cardamundi. There are definitely companies in the States that can do things. They're just quite limited in what they can do. Their print runs might be a different size. Your price per unit is definitely going to be higher. But again, sometimes companies need to, like I said, make something to stay relevant in a way, right? And to keep the money kind of flowing in, especially if they have other things that are reliant on that. So yeah, I don't think going to a convention is all doom and gloom. I think you can learn a ton by going there, and just become part of the industry in that way, right? Companies they will have stuff to sell because they have to. They have stock that they're going to be trying to sell. It's just, can they bring new stuff in? And it's really affecting things that were on the water when the tariffs got announced, or current Kickstarters where the pricing of shipping and everything else, the end product cost to the end user is indeterminable because of the state of the nation. Right. So that's where things get dicey. Future us, like in a year, in 2 years, is that still going to be a problem? I would hope not, right? But
I think
that's kind of where
um,
we have to go.
one of the things that a lot of people won't understand is how much of a long term impact one order with 145% tariffs has on most small to medium publishers. And the other thing that people need to be aware of is yes, people have backers from all over the world, but with the minimum order quantities, it means that we can't justify doing a print run that excludes the US. A lot of us small publishers just can't
Yeah.
do that.
So I'll give you
And
some
so in our
demographics.
particular case,
No, you go. Keep going. In your particular case.
in our particular case, we don't actually have any smaller run we could do. So for BubbleNet, we've halved our planned run. We were going to do 2,000, we're going to do 1,000, but we can't do a smaller run to just service everyone except the US and then do the US later.
Yeah.
So what that means is we either print now and take a huge hit on our US stuff, or we print now and we pay to store half of our run in China, or we don't print and we just have to sit on it. And for publishers that I know of who've had to come through and suddenly get hit with, I've seen $40,000 extra bills, I've seen $120,000 extra bills. And when you just don't have that margin, it's going to take a long, long time to recover from that. And some publishers just don't have it, aren't going to be able to. So even though, the tariffs may only last 5, 6 months, whatever, it's still going to take a lot of companies down. We've seen some big ones fall, but they were wobbly.
Yeah.
The ones that we're not going to see are all the small ones. People
Yeah.
won't
Because
realize, they won't understand, but you'll see it at the conventions.
they're
You'll
just
see
dreams
all
that
the
have
mystery.
gone up in smoke. So yeah, I'm just some numbers for you guys is that the North American, mostly American market, which is 10 times, well, it's 10 times larger than Canada, right? So the American US market accounts for most English speaking Kickstarters, about 50% of the customer base, right? Statistically. And so, yes, you could run a business on 50% of the world. That's a lot of the world left. The problem is your print run big enough? So, for some very small indie games, no, it can't be. Like you're not going to hit an MOQ, a minimum order quantity. For our games, we would be able to do that, but it would severely lower everything, and it would make the price per unit cost increase anyway, right? Because of the little kind of incremental benefits you get from printing more and more. The other thing to understand about this is like major companies are shipping stuff back to China because it's cheaper. It's actually cheaper for them to send it back to China and hope that when it gets to China they can just turn it right around than it is to land it in United States right now. So yeah, I mean, we got hit with a $20,000 bill that would normally have cost us, well, so it was over that. It was like 28,000. It would normally cost us like 2,000. And that was at 20%. So imagine what that would be like at 145%, which is what I saw today. One of our other, you know, friends in the industry, they said, yeah, this would normally cost us $350 to clear this, and it costs them 35,000 to clear it at 145%. Right. So like that's a car. You're talking about somebody's rent for a year, right, of living in a house, if they rented it, right, or their mortgage or whatever, right. So it's not a cheap thing. You're talking people's livelihoods, and I think that's what people like Price are fighting for. When so he works for Cephalofair, which made Gloomhaven, and they at the volume that they're printing at, they're talking like not in the hundreds of thousands. They're talking in the astronomical amounts of money that they would have to pay at 145% to land their products, right?
And to
So
be clear,
yeah,
this 145% that people are just sort of shrugging off, this isn't money that anyone was expecting to have to spend.
well that's it,
And this
right?
isn't
Nobody
money that
plans
anyone can
for the
get
Spanish
back.
Inquisition.
It's just, well, I mean, it, it's utterly devastating. And the number of the other side effects, the flow-ons, right now I hear that there are basically no ships from China coming into any of the ports,
It's
so
very
people are
it's
getting laid off.
slim to none. Yes. Yeah, the
But what
trickle
that
down.
means is people are getting laid off,
Yeah,
so
this
all
whole
of the
trickle down
infrastructure.
effect isn't working the way the Republicans thought it would.
Yeah, but I mean, the point there though is that there is those people are all going to be get fired. So
Yeah.
then, when those boats do come back, there's no one to process them.
Yeah.
So then there's a delay there. All of the people whose jobs it was to take things from there to the next stage, they're losing their jobs. All of the distribution companies are in
Yeah.
huge trouble. All of these other things, all the retail stores are struggling because they can't get stock and customers are mad because they can't buy the thing they want. And all of these flow on effects from just a couple of months. I mean, it's the whole industry, and not just the industry, but all of everything that is used to surviving on this is completely being undercut. Give it
Yeah.
another month and it's not going to be able to survive. And
Yeah.
even if it does, those of us who are waiting to be able to get a spot on a ship, we're not going to be able to afford it anymore because
Yeah,
there's
because
going to
then
be
those are going to spike across
spots.
to
Yeah,
make
and
up for the
it's
loss, right?
yeah.
Because it's a
So
demand, it's a supply demand, right? So it's fascinating what's happened, and it's not going
academically,
to be a
sure.
yeah, it's not going to be an immediate recovery. Is I think what Kat is kind of trying to get at as well, right? It's like as soon as these tariffs go away, the world will be back to where it was. No,
Mm,
that's not going to happen because it will
mm.
because there'll be things that were supposed to be there that aren't there anymore. Whether it's a whole company that went under, or like you said, the longshoremen who are supposed to unload and load your stuff, they're not there anymore either. At least in
And the truck
America.
drivers
Yeah,
and everyone else,
yeah,
they're all going to have to go get other jobs.
yeah.
And
And to
maybe
say
those
that
other
it's
jobs will be better.
yeah, to say that only in America is also not true, right? Because it does affect the factories and the people at other places. Because again, America is a huge market. It's not a small market. It is the de facto richest country in the world, right? Which means that you're going to have a trade deficit, people. That's what it
And
means. When you are the
Dave's
richest, you will
mentioned,
have a trade deficit because you are buying from everybody else.
yep,
That is what logic
creating a
would
vacuum.
dictate. It's not
Dave's
a trade
mention of
deficit the
bonded
other way.
warehouses.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Bonded
Sorry.
warehouses. So a bonded warehouse
Yeah.
is kind of like it's like a no man's land. It's like stuff can land there and it can sit there, and it will not get taxed until it leaves there. And
But you have
so
to pay.
yeah, to store it.
That's the bond.
Yes,
So it's, yeah, there
but
are,
it's cheaper
you're
than
already,
145%.
depends how long it's got to stay there.
Yeah, yeah, right.
Um, that's the problem. Like everyone that I know is making all these decisions. So to take us back to the original question, should I pitch to publishers? Um,
Right?
ask them.
Yeah.
Ask
Just ask them,
them.
are you taking
Is it
pitches?
okay for me to talk to you about pitching? Are
Yeah,
you in a place where you can take pictures? And if they say no, thank them and bugger off because
yeah,
they do not have the emotional space. If they're busy going, is my business ending today or is it going to be tomorrow?
right.
They don't want to hear about your game, and this could poison you in their mind forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Don't waste
optimistic.
people's time.
Yes, yeah, but also don't make their first memory of you be that pushy person who didn't hear them say no.
Yeah. Confidence in
And
confidence in doing business. You're
yes,
right, Luke. Will be low.
yes,
Yeah.
the
But what you can do at conventions, and I'm not saying you have to, but what you can do at conventions, if you are considering purchasing things, buy them from the indie designers, buy them from the people who've paid to have a booth at a convention, because every single thing that you buy from them could be the difference between them collapsing and not collapsing, because a lot of them have paid for booths that they can't get refunds on now. And they're having to travel potentially with much less stock than they'd expected to take with them. So they really need every single one of those sales.
Yeah.
That would be my tip. If
Yeah.
it's something that's available to you, buy something from
Yeah.
them.
If you can afford to buy something and you want it, then get it. And sometimes getting it directly from the publisher puts more money in that particular publisher's pocket. than going through the whole chain. But you know,
Almost always. Buying it directly from them at a
oh,
convention is
100%.
the way that
I'm
they
just
get the
saying,
most
like,
money out.
I was just meaning that I don't know if you want to support your local game stores and your the
It,
distributors and all this kind of stuff. It's
Oh,
hard, right?
yes, that too. But I mean, if you're at ways to support them at conventions, buy from them at conventions.
Yeah. All right. I think that might be it. But thank you for
Yay,
showing
what
up.
a cheerful note.
Yeah, Andrew at the end there, and letting us talk about the thing that we did not want to talk about. No, it's okay. We were
it's
totally prepared to talk about it. We knew it would come up. You just happened to be the last person to bring it up, which is hilarious. All right,
I
everybody.
think
We'll
it's more simply that it's everyone's always talking about it, and
yeah.
we've avoided talking about it because everyone's already doing it. But yeah, you're not in trouble, Andrew.
No, not at all. We enjoyed answering the question. It's fine. All right, everybody. So next week we'll be back, same time, same place. Kat and George will not be here. It'll just be me, and I'm currently finding a guest. I have sent out my minions across the interwebs to grab a guest for us. So I'll let you know who that guest is sometime in the near future, and we will have a chit chat with them about stuff
something.
and maybe things. That'll be fun.
And
Yeah.
then the
So
episode after that
all right,
will be my
everybody.
episode. So if you have any ideas about what you would like us to talk about, or people you would like to see us talk to, or anything like that,
Yeah, let us know.
let us know.
Cool.
Cool. All right, we'll see you all later. Good night.